Okay, just maybe another follow up to becoming a nursing student, older nursing student, and I'm talking like over 35. Let's say that because most nursing students are young. Um, I think my class average age. I think my professor was telling me was like 19 or technically 18, like the way the month goes, and I was thinking, how is that even freaking possible? Because I was there at 48, 47, whatever. My friend, she was 48, and the other friend was 50. Oh no, she was 49, and I knew there was a couple 35 and 30-year olds in there too. One of my better friends in class, he was 28. So I'm like, I knew there was a big cohort, a big group of us that were older or not out of high school. So how the hell did there was just like 90% or yeah, about 90% of the class, I guess, was like 18-year-olds, because that's the only way it could skew it down so far and cancel us out. I mean, they had access to the demographics of the class. I didn't. And I was like, holy crap! There had to be. I knew there was a couple like just turned 18 like a month ago. One of my clinical mates and friends, she had actually taken all her prereqs in high school, and she was my clinical for a couple clinicals, and I knew her brother too. He joined us in another cohort later on because he had failed nursing one. So she was literally 18. Like all my kids, or except for one, were older than her at the time. Um, so there were a lot of young people, and I was this video's coming up because I was looking at another video. You can get your YouTube feeds, and it was an interview with a 54-year-old nursing student, like earlier this year or last year. It was on a channel called MotaraRNtoMD. She's an RN transitioning to MD, and she was interviewing, I guess, one of her coworkers or one of her friends. Getting her perspective as a 54-year-old nursing student. And one of the things that stuck out to me on the interview or the video was how her first day was. How she went in and I say, I never went over that too. How she looks older. No offense to her, she looks great, but she does look her age, or she felt her age. Whereas I strolled in under the radar. A lot of people like had no idea my age until we graduated. Years later, they were like, "What?" Because I can in person, I think I present better even, and most of the time, even now at 50, knocking on 53, most of my patients are like, "How do you have a college age kid? How's that possible? Adopted?" Or they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, my oldest is 30." They're like, "You look 30." So I mean, back then, I probably presented in the mid 20s or what have you. A lot of people, even my friends that I was just noting, they had no idea. Even the ones that were my age had no idea until like probably well into the first semester, and they got to know me and study groups and what have you. And they're like, "What the f?" So I was able to have I think, a unique perspective because I sat down and I looked the age, but I could see around and hear the conversations, and they're like, "Oh, look at that one. She's ancient. She's 30. Look at him. He's got to be like 32." And I'm sitting there literally next to the person. I mean, I'm sure they would not have had that conversation if they knew I was 47, 48. So, I had a perspective, and there is that. It. I don't know if it's a bias, whatever you want to call it, but don't let that affect you, because I was sitting there and I was like, no problem. Was it easier for them than us? And this is really the I don't want to say the trigger, but the point of the video that caught my attention on the other person's video, and something I wanted to address is that their youth and their ability to remember stuff and handle the technology better and more comfortable in the classroom because they were just in either college, high school, what have you, rather than for us in the older generation, and we were decades away from it. I was almost 30 years away from a college class, real college class. I had taken some like courses and some other stuff, for advanced degrees and stuff like that, but not like we were brick and mortar. This is pre-COVID. This is way pre-COVID. So we were brick and mortars. And, they have all that advantage. But one thing that stuck out in the other video was that, the commitment level was different. People just like, I'm going to party and I'm going to study. Whereas me and my friends, no, we're studying. We were working. We had no time to party. I mean, what partying is taking our kids to birthday parties for that weekend, and that was a chore, honestly, I mean, no offense to the kids, but that was a chore, because we're working, we're going to school, we got to study, we got to do our projects, and then go to class. What time? We don't have any time. Because our significant others, if they saw us resting, they would be like, no, there's a honey to-do list. Whether you're a guy or girl, doesn't matter. They're like, no. Your physical body's not in motion. I don't like that. Triggers them. And we're like, I'm exhausted mentally and emotionally. So, whereas the kids, they were living with their parents, and then they were kids. They're our classmates. Hardly any of them lived by themselves. Rent wise, there were a few. Most of them, again, probably 85 to 90% of the class lived at home. Parents paid for everything, whatever, even tuition. But a lot of them, I think like 30% of the class didn't even make past the first semester. I know when I graduated, it was like 50% of the class. Not even, probably. I'm a little befuddled or a little confused because we each semester we got people coming in, like LPNs, paramedics, EMS, depending on the semester. It's to make up that group, because they allocated, let's say, for 100 spaces. They want to graduate 100 people. They're hoping that all 100 graduate, but I think we had 70, like 73 people graduate in our graduating class, and that was big. We were actually one of the biggest classes they had. And I like to think it was because we had older, because we kept getting add-ons that 2 and 3 people failed out, couldn't finish, what have you, and they say, okay, there's a spot open, put them in. But it was never like back to 100, let's say the number was. It was actually, I think our initial class was like 100, close to 120. It was the biggest class they ever had. And they filled up, so, even through all that attrition, I think our original class 50% made it. The other 20 were like add-ons, and some of them didn't make it, but a lot of them did. A higher percentage of them made it through because this was their second time around. They knew what it was like to fail, and they did not like it. And I know a lot of them are practicing in local hospitals or with me, and they're going to NICU, L&D, or ICU, or ED, and med surg, what have you. It doesn't matter what you do in school; it's what you do after school, and that's the point. You got to get through school, and I think being older gives you a higher level of commitment, a higher level of being serious about it and focus. So I just wanted to point that out. That was an interesting point in her video that I don't think I ever addressed, like the first day of school, how I felt like, oh my God, I was a fly in the wall almost, because I had a totally different point of view than all, 90% of the class. Nobody knew my age. Absolutely nobody knew my age that, first few weeks of class, few months of class. And then they were like, through this conference, because I don't say, hey, I'm 47 years old. I don't have a t-shirt that says that. It's through interaction and discussions. Oh, what do you do for a living? Blah, blah, blah. Because, it was an ADN program. I consider all ADN programs part-time. So you're like, okay, what do you do really for work right now to feed yourself? If, you got a family? What do you mean family? You got a little kid? I was like, no, my oldest at the time was probably 26, 25. And they were like, excuse me, what? So that got into like, how old are you? Are you married? What? You're married? You actually are married? Because a lot of them, again, boyfriend, girlfriend, they or whatever, and just got out of class, out of high school. They got their diploma still warm in their hands, high school diploma warm in their hands. So totally different point of views, totally different aspect of life. But I think it really suited it. It helped me and the older ones. Not all the older ones made it through, by the way, the first round. And just because you were over 22 didn't mean you made it. No, actually, I saw a lot, in my opinion, the majority that. Well, I didn't know the really young ones. I didn't hang out with them because they just, they're a totally different world. But the ones that were a little older, like 24, 25, 26, yeah, a lot didn't make it either. I don't think they realized the level of commitment was the commonality there. Through all of them that I talked to, I say, you don't really seem committed to this program. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking that. And that's the thing. You have to make sacrifices. You have to be ready to study a lot. The other aspect of the video that the 54-year-old was talking about was she learned to settle for C's. I learned to settle for C's and B's too. I mean, so it was luckily I was still able to graduate honors, but you might be used. I went through certain classes and prereqs at above 100 level averages. I quickly learned to dial that down to like, oh yeah, 70's good. I'll take that. I passed. It's just a complete change. Don't let that discourage you. C's do get degrees. There's a reason why that is a very popular adage in our industry. Okay? You're not expected to know everything. NCLEX is only 51%. You get 51%, you pass. Okay? I don't want people to think, hey, I shut it down with 65. Yay, I got a perfect score. No. I know. I just needed to get 33 right out of that. That was it. I don't know where it occurs. It just shuts down and it's done. But there's nothing in my mind that for a second do I believe I got everyone right. There's no way. Okay, that does not happen. I don't care. You got 1,600 in your SATs. You're not getting this right because it's not as straightforward as that. That's the problem with NCLEX and nursing, and they're getting you ready for the real world because you could do everything right, and that patient's still going to crater. You don't know. It has nothing to do with you. It's the patient, and they're getting you ready to think of all the different parameters, all the different possibilities, and that's what you can do is just try your best. Hopefully, you don't have that, but everybody loses patience. I've lost patience. I mean, it's what's going to happen. It's part of life and death. And, nothing, thankfully, it's nothing I did, it's just boom, it's like, wow, what the heck, yeah, if we had infinite resources, infinite time, the orders are all right. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have lost them. But I had one that was a hospice. I mean, what are you going to do? They're ready. They're getting ready for, the transition. And there's nothing you can do about it. Terminal cancer is terminal for a reason. What are you going to do? Terminal illnesses are terminal, is what it is. So, it's not mathematics. It's not all mathematics. Some of it is. So, it doesn't matter. You get 1,600 SATs. Makes zero crap sense. I don't give a crap. Even doctor, you're better suited for MD, but even they would tell you no. And it's not black and white. You wish it was. It's not like the movies. All right. So anyway, going back to the point of the video is, be prepared going back to school, going into nursing school, that you will be one of the older ones. If you're watching this channel, typically you will be. But do not, and I emphasize this over and over and over in every video, it's not a detriment in my opinion. It's an advantage. It is actually a strong advantage. Are there detriments? Yes. My mind is not as steel trapped as those classmates that I had. But a lot of those guys are not RNs now. Most of them are not. You know, half of them are, and I'm glad to have them with me. You know, good luck. I hope you guys join us too.